Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Ellasin. And I am Ellasin. And on this show, we talk about real issues that impact real people of the community, and we keep it down to earth. These issues not only impact the people of God, but the community as a whole. And if you're joining me on Facebook, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're joining me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Whatever platform you're on, make sure you share it out. Well, on today, we are going to be talking about suicide prevention awareness. And before I bring on my guest, I want to say that according to the CDC in 2020, suicide accounted for 46,000 deaths. It was 12.2 million adults seriously thought about committing suicide, but they might not have had a plan. There were 3.2 million that made a plan. And unfortunately, there was 1.2 million who actually attempted suicide. And that was in 2020. Here joining me to talk about this topic is my sidekick, co-host, Jaquita Garrett. She's a substance abuse counselor. Welcome, Jaquita. How are you? It's always good to see you.
Hello, welcome thank you for welcoming me. Happy to be here. Your sidekick and co-host.
Yes. So we'll be talking about suicide prevention. And our goal is to educate as well as reduce the factors that increase risk. Right. And we have with us right now Michelle Peterson of Sarah Michelle Peterson Foundation. Michelle, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Ellasin. Hello, Jaquita. I am so happy to be here with both of you to talk about suicide prevention. It's Mental Health Month, so yes. What better time?
That's right. That's right. Great and I time. Think because I know it is Mental Health Month that you guys, unfortunately are extremely busy. But I do appreciate you being here. And I want to say you have Sarah Michelle Peterson Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got started with that.
Okay. The Sarah Michelle Peterson Foundation was started in 2014 when our daughter, Sarah, who was 15 at the time, she had just turned 15, ended her life by suicide. So it got started in a very heart-wrenching and sad way. A group of friends and our family, which is myself, my husband, and 3 other teenagers, Sarah's 2 brothers and her sister, as well as I mentioned, friends, really were obviously just devastated at the loss of Sarah, our wonderful daughter. And we felt that there just wasn't any group that was providing educational programs that were evidence-based and really helpful and safe for our community about suicide prevention. My daughter, Ivy, who was 16 at the time, one of the things she said that was so enlightening is, we have health class at school. And, we talk about various things about health, but mental health is part of health. And we never talk about it. We don't have any programs. It just seems to be missed. And how could such a young person even want to end their life and then actually make it happen? So with all that, we discovered that there actually was not such a group in Hampton Roads, Virginia, where we are, and that we were able to form a nonprofit foundation. We went through that process so that we could be supported by others who cared about the topic. And we started with just a few programs and have built to what we are now. And I know we'll be talking about our programs later, so I won't go on with that.
Yeah. So I want to say, of course, I know you said it's in 2014, but you never get over it. So I'm deeply sorry to hear that. And also grateful that you chose to make a difference, not, sit there and, unfortunately just allow grief to take over, but you use that grief and you're reaching out to helping other people. So thank you so very much for doing that.
You're
Right.
welcome.
All right. So this listen, everyone that's chiming in, if you're feeling triggered, let me throw this disclosure out there. If you're feeling triggered, or you're starting to feel sad or anything like that, we ask you to please click off of the program. We don't want to trigger anybody. We know this is a delicate subject, but we are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how to help. We're going to talk about coping skills. We're going to get in there and offer assistance the best way we can. All right, ladies. So suicide, right? The one thing a lot of people don't know is, especially because when I do intakes, I go, do you have any suicide ideation? Right now, suicide ideation, what a lot of people don't know is there's also something called vague suicide ideation. And a lot of us probably say that, like, oh my God, I just don't want to be here no more. I can't take it no more. I just wish so no, we're not, talking about suicide ideation, the vague ones. We're talking about the ones that are reoccurring, right? The reoccurring ones. Anybody want to jump in on that one?
Sure, I can do that. So, suicide ideation is kind of a fancy word for thinking about suicide, thoughts of suicide. And truthfully, anyone who's lived a bit has sometimes just thought, gosh, I don't know what I'm doing here. Or I just want to sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep, or
Mm-hmm.
some such thing, which you referred to that as vague ideation, which is, I think, a good name for it. It's unplanned thoughts where someone is just maybe having a bad day, maybe really tired, maybe overwhelmed by a lot of things going on or things that are hard for them to deal with. And I would say that those things concern us less. While I would think that those people could certainly use a caring conversation with a friend,
Right.
um, those are things that we're not as concerned about as
Mm-hmm.
what I would call more thoughtful suicide ideation, where people have
Right.
ideas about ending their lives
Mm-hmm.
and they are more specific.
Mm-hmm.
They are thinking about a true desire to end life, and then they may follow on with thoughts about how they might achieve that, how they might make a plan, and how they might actually end their life.
Yeah.
That's suicide ideation that must be taken much, much more seriously.
Yes. Yes. And Jaquita, did you want to jump piggyback? Because if not, I'm gonna jump in and piggyback.
Yeah, so I'll piggyback on it. I agree with what she's explaining to everyone about suicide and suicidal ideations. Suicidal ideations is something that we discuss daily with our clients. It's actually when you're involved in a session, it's one of the first things, or somewhere between the middle of the session, depending on what the client says out of their mouths. We actually ask them, are you feeling homicidal? Are you feeling suicidal? What
Mm-hmm.
type of ideations are you experiencing? Um, so to piggyback on it, what I would say is someone can tell you, yes, I feel suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that they have a plan or they're going to
Right.
move it into play or action. It's just saying, hey, the thoughts are running through my mind. With that being said, people often, as such as myself or Ellison, we ask questions to say, hey, let's go a little more in depth about the suicidal ideations you're having. Do you have a plan?
Right.
So sometimes if a client says, hey, I'm having ideations of suicide, but I don't have a plan. So it's not always a point to make a big deal about it, but just talk about it. It becomes more in depth and serious when they say, I do have a plan.
Yes, yes, yes. It's definitely something to watch for, because those are the people that have the reoccurrent thoughts, right? Or sometimes they're preoccupied with death. So
Right.
those are the ones that we watch out for, even the ones without a plan, because if I keep at it, eventually, if I keep reoccurring, and then I'm feeling hopeless, what's to stop me from going on to the next step? So we definitely have to be mindful and watchful of those people that say, well, yeah, I have the ideation, but not a plan, versus, like you were saying, Michelle, the ones that even have a plan.
Yeah.
Right, that's very important. Because, and I want to say this, um sometimes individuals that commit suicide, it could just be the overwhelming of stress. Like, the thoughts start coming from, I lost my job, how am I going to take care of my family? Sometimes it's a bad breakup, they don't know how to cope with a bad breakup, so life just happens, and the rush of emotions come in, and now here I am thinking of something, and it happens. So that extremely feeling overwhelmed feeling is something that we definitely have to be mindful of as individuals, and even looking at other people family wise or anything else like that. So we can't really say when thoughts begin for suicide, or what heightens the urge. But Michelle, do you have anything to say about, maybe be careful of what your thoughts are that could possibly heighten that?
I would say, I'm not sure if this is exactly the same, but many times people do have overwhelming feelings. And in fact, I love that you use that term, because in our youth programs, we talk about what we call everyday feelings and what we call overwhelming feelings. And the overwhelming feelings are feelings that we need to tell trusted adults about and seek help for. Whether it's for ourselves or whether we come to know this about a peer, a friend. Um, I would say, though, to try and answer how do these thoughts begin, we have everyday feelings, we have overwhelming feelings. And if they co occur with being depressed, especially not just bad day depressed, but clinical
Yeah.
depression, where you are really down for 2 weeks or more, and there's really no good day among it.
Yeah.
Um, if you are feeling like that and it continues, you may begin to feel hopeless, like the world itself perhaps would be better off without you, or your people, whoever they might be, family, friends, and so forth. You feel perhaps that you're a burden to them. Nothing is good. I think that's when things really become dangerous. That I think it's the hopelessness more than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yes. Yes. And I would agree. Jaquita, you want to add, because especially with substance abuse, how much does self-medication play a role as well?
Self-medication plays a major role when you're in a depression or possibly having suicidal ideations. A lot of times, people assume that, hey, I'll do drugs, I'll use substance, I'll drink alcohol, I'll swallow a few pills, it'll help me numb what I'm feeling. So technically, it may seem at the moment that everything starts to dwindle away, but it doesn't. All it does is it brings you deeper into depression when you use substance. It doesn't make it go away. It makes your thoughts more altered. Um, it makes your thoughts more clear to have negative thoughts to possibly commit suicide.
Mhm.
Um, I don't recommend anyone that, of course, deals with anxiety, depression, or having like mental health diagnoses that they would use substance, because it does not help the situation. It
Yes.
actually makes it 10 times worse.
Yes.
And in that
Yeah.
moment, you may feel like, hey, well, the trauma that I had in my past, it numbs my pain. I'm not thinking
Yeah.
about it when I'm feeling high, but then it puts you in a position where your brain is altered. So now you're thinking more towards, hey, I'm still sad, I'm still depressed, but I'm not thinking about the trauma of my past or certain things that happened in my life. But
Yeah.
hey, maybe if I disappear and nobody sees me, the world would be better without me. Trust me, substance is not the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So Michelle, you deal with a lot of youth, or is it just across the board, adults as well as youth?
So, this is a good time for me to make really clear that I am not a licensed counselor. And in
Right.
fact, the Sarah Peterson Foundation does not employ licensed counselors either. We are educators, so
Mm-hmm.
we teach programs to adults and to youth.
And youth.
And
Okay.
they can be customized for different types of people. There are basic community programs, and then we have programs for teachers, programs for counselors. Recently, we did a program for doctors and nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the youth, we go to schools, to youth groups, to we've been to scouts, we've been to all kinds of different groups of young people. And our programs teach people how to recognize warning signs that suicide might be part of someone's thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and how to have the confidence to have a conversation about mental health and
Right.
even suicide with
Right.
the person, and be what I call a bridge to help, where you
Mm-hmm.
would then provide resources and connect the person with counseling or medical care or whatever sort of medical or counseling type care or mental health care that they would need.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that out, because the reason why I asked is because one of the comments said, um, help asking for help is like a foreign language to some people,
Mhm.
right? So with your organization and with you teaching that, I wanted you to, if you can, speak to that comment.
Of course, yes. It does feel like a foreign language because we're not used to talking about mental health and scary subjects like that. And in fact, um, I feel like many people think, maybe we really should leave that to the professionals.
Mm,
But the truth about that is, like, imagine CPR. Many, many people have been trained in CPR, which means we're looking for the signs that someone might have a heart crisis. And then we know a few skills to do to be the bridge to help. You've heard me say
mhm,
that before, to the heart doctors.
mhm,
And mental health trainings teach the same sort of thing. We know what signs to look for that someone's mental health is not okay. And sometimes that's easy to see. We have all seen people that we're like, ooh, something's going on there.
right.
The hard part is, and the scary part, because we're afraid we're going to make it worse. We're afraid that we don't know what to say. We think we don't have the skills, but really we can learn a few skills so that we can be confident talking to the person and saying, this is important and we need more help. Let's
Hmm.
get you to more help.
Yes. So I'm glad that you brought that up about your program, because not everybody wants to go to a professional.
Right.
Not
And
everybody wants to go to a professional.
and it's not going to be a professional that notices someone's not okay. It's going to be someone in our normal daily life who first notices that something is going on here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I agree with that. And to speak to that, we started saying what are some thoughts or what are some urges, and that's when people start feeling like life is just happening and it keeps happening, and it's starting to spiral out of control, or it starts as a snowball, and as it keeps going and going and going, and I can't control it anymore, and then there's no expectations of my situation, improving. So now I have lost expectations, right? And then it's the feeling of hopelessness. And there's something that I wanted to speak to as far as the word lonely, because oftentimes people feel like alone. I'm not saying alone. Alone, we can be alone, we can read a book, we can watch Lifetime, whatever, chew bonbons, all of that. But loneliness is when a person could be in a room full of people, they can be at a concert with thousands of people and still feel lonely, because lonely is that emotional, agonizing pain that nothing's going to get better. Nobody understands, nobody sees me, and I'm feeling lonely. So I wanted to speak to that part about when we were talking about what are urges and thoughts of people. It's like, here I am standing here in the middle of the world and nobody sees me. So what's the use? Nobody sees me anyway. And to speak to that, it's so important for us, like your foundation and Jaquita, your program, and as counselors to make people know that they do matter, right? Because they do matter. And it starts at the home. It starts with family. It starts with friends. It starts with programs like yours, Michelle.
Yes, it really does. It makes a difference, and I think that you've said so many things there that are so important.
Yeah, it is. It is important that, and we bring this awareness, to people, because you like we said, professionals always don't want to go. One of the comments was like, well, it's the professional's job. And yeah, it is our job, but there are professionals out there that really do care. There are professionals that really do care. So are there signs, like when you teach, and even Jaquita, I'm gonna come to you after Michelle, are there signs that people can look for in their loved ones that, perhaps they're struggling, or may attempt suicide or anything? Are there any signs?
Yes, there are usually signs, and I say that when someone is thinking about ending their life, they do give us signs, but a lot of times it's more of a clue than a very direct statement. So it's unusual for people to say, I'm thinking of killing myself and I would like you to help me not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they drop hints by things they say and also by behaviors that you might notice in them that
Mm-hmm.
they are not okay. And in fact, that they may be thinking of ending their life. Imagine someone saying something like, pretty soon you won't have to worry about me anymore,
Mm-hmm.
or I just can't take it anymore, or any other similar thing where you do notice and something
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem right, and maybe it's a gut feeling or a spidey sense or whatever you would like to call it, but those are the things I'm talking about as far as what people might say, and also things people might do. I'll leave it to Jaquita to talk more about substance abuse and self-medication, but along with that, perhaps just a carelessness, perhaps not practicing their usual hygiene, or makeup and other things that would be their typical look. Perhaps doing things that are reckless or dangerous, being places they shouldn't be. And this is whether we're talking about youth or adults. I just call it a
That's good.
carelessness.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Quita?
I would agree with Michelle. A lot of times when we do our sessions, we look for individuals when we go out to see them. We pay attention to their appearance, how they're dressed. We look for signs to see if they're possibly under the influence. A lot of clients with ADLs, meaning that they're not bathing, they're wearing the same clothing. Some possibly even have their hair isn't combed. They
Mm-hmm.
tend to have a smell. They're always laying in the bed all day for hours and hours at a time. Often when we go to their homes, often when you go to their homes, their uh, things are out of order. It's just certain things you have to pay attention to. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a
And
lot.
to be honest, sometimes you can go into someone's home and it could be just as perfect and well put together. And even though they're battling like depression and being suicidal, they can be very clean, very neat. I do want to throw this important statement out there as well. Some clients or some people who suffer with mental illness, um, you would know their diagnosis, and when you ask them if they're homicidal or suicidal, they will tell you no.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't mention it because they want to be successful with the plan that they're trying to put forth. So sometimes you may have somebody that may not be laying in the bed that often. Sometimes they smile a lot. I've seen
Right.
two sides to the story. But yes, those are major signs for ADLs: sleeping, laying in a bed a lot. A lot of times people who aren't professionals, when their kids say things like, I just hope I sleep my life away, a lot of times parents or siblings may disregard that individual and they may say, oh, such and such is talking crazy. And
Right.
instead of you, if that was me and I was present in the room, I wouldn't look at it quite the same, because I know how to identify or pick that up. You do as well, Michelle. Now you too, Ellison, because this is what we deal with on a daily basis. Um, so I pay attention to that as well, from experience, being that you think everything is okay and it's
Yeah.
like an explosion.
Yeah, you're taken aback. So you're watching Real Talk with Ellison. We're talking to Michelle Peterson of the Sarah Michelle Foundation, and we're talking with my sidekick, Jaquita Garrett, uh, suicide, not suicide, substance abuse counselor. The 1-800 hotline for suicide is 1-800-273-8255. That's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And Michelle, we do have another one which is called crisis text, right? Because now you can text to, and that number is text to hello to 741-741. You can now text hello to 741-741. I wanted to jump in on some of what you said because yes, basically, we have to watch out for some things. The obvious things are like the social withdrawal. Self-destructive behaviors is one of them that I know we didn't touch on. And self-destructive behaviors could range from substance uses. It can range from being promiscuous, unprotected sex, reckless driving, anything that causes some kind of dangerous, is invites death to it, can also be a sign. Now, unfortunately, there are no signs, right? And I've seen a comment that said sudden change. So yes, sometimes the person will be just so depressed, and then all of a sudden they're just so happy go lucky, and they seem to be upbeat, and they have so much peace with themselves. So yeah, that's also the case. And then there's those times where there is no sign. Everything's okay, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden we just know that unfortunately, a loved one or a friend or somebody we know committed suicide, attempted suicide, or something like that. So, and I say that because, watching the news and just even being with, different clients, sometimes you just don't know, and you would just pray and hope that your loved one or friend or somebody would reach out for help and not feel like I'm so lonely and so despair that I can't. So where we're naming signs that you can actually look out for, sometimes there are none, right? Sometimes there are none. And being a woman of faith, I pray a whole lot, because for my children and for other people's children, and just for children in general, as well as adults, because it's important for us to pray. It's important for us to pray, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. um is there a population that are more at risk to commit suicide? And Michelle, where I know you're not a counselor, you work with a diverse group of people, as well as teens and youth, and as well as adults. Are you seeing a certain population?
I am, but if I could go back for 1 second to what you were just talking about, I saw that comment too, and I thought it was really important, and I'm glad that you addressed it. And just like to add to what you said about people who there seem to be no signs. I would just like to say that sometimes there really, really aren't, but that is extremely rare. What
Mm-hmm.
more often happens is that no one is seeing the signs, but they're
Mm-hmm.
there. And if you can just, if our viewers and listeners can just wrap their minds a little bit around the idea that when someone dies by suicide, really surprisingly, whether it's a celebrity or someone that you thought you knew or did know, um, in the weeks and months afterwards, a lot of times people realize that they did see something.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the person was withdrawing, or seeming to put their affairs in order a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
or they heard something or knew about something, but they didn't realize that it was a sign or a clue.
Right.
But they, in hindsight, after what happens after the death, they kind of realize that maybe they did hear something. So
Mm-hmm.
that's more typical. And I'm not saying that maybe once in a great while there is someone where there's absolutely no sign. But most of the time, we might
It's
realize it
something.
too late, but there is,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So your
Yeah.
actual question to me was about, are there certain types of people that maybe we should take extra care, keep an extra eye on? And I would give you the short answer that yes, there are certain types of people that we could give an extra eye on. However, and I will tell who some of them are. So let me just say that first. But anybody can become depressed or hopeless. And if we're only watching for certain types of people, we might miss
Miss
someone
it.
who we could
Yes.
intervene with and help.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of don't like to say certain types of people. But with that said, I'll give you a few. Um, think of populations of people who are really having a hard time for one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
We might know about the one thing we know. Like, let's say it's a military family, because I know a couple of us here are that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
military families undergo stressors that perhaps the rest of the population doesn't see or understand.
That's right.
And um, those people might be at greater risk. Now, just being a military family by itself would not necessarily put you at greater risk. But the thing is, we might know somebody is in a military family and we might not know some other things about them. And they may have
Mm-hmm.
5 big risk factors because of other stuff we don't know. And I'm going to say that about every group I'm talking about. You know, let's say someone has a terminal diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. That by itself, there are plenty of people who undergo that and find their way, and they don't want to die any sooner than death is going to come for them.
Right.
But that could be part of numerous things going on with that person that we maybe don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people can have undiagnosed mental health illnesses, you know,
Yes.
perhaps bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, uh,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming anxiety. There are all kinds of things that could be going on with people that we don't know about. And then when we add overwhelming everyday situations, um, I guess what I'm really saying is suicide is never caused by just one thing. And when we
One.
see it in
Yes.
the media, it tends to be oversimplified like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think of bullying, medical diagnoses, divorce, painful breakups, loss of a job. These are all things that are easy to point at. But the truth is that people lose their jobs all the time and they don't go on to die by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
People's relationships break up and they don't go on to die by suicide. There has to be more to it than the
Combination.
somewhat simple explanation. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we can look out for certain kinds of people, but if we only do that, we might miss somebody, or in fact, many people.
Yes. Yeah. I like that you said that because it is so true. Because society will have it be that people in poverty,
Mhm.
the LBGTQA plus S, that community, it's almost easier to put a label on who is more susceptible to commit suicide, but in actuality it could be from the multi-million dollars down to the few dollars. And I like that you said if we're looking for a certain group of people, we might miss it. And I feel like sometimes in our mental health, and I like that you said early in the show, mental health is health. And our mental health, we miss it because oftentimes we're looking for textbook, and it's not always textbook. What are the underlying issues that the textbook doesn't tell you about, or that society doesn't point out? And I think that was very important that you had mentioned that part. That is
And
really,
we
really
like logic. We like to find reasons for things.
good.
It's just sensible. And so, I saw in the comment, people were even chiming in about a few things. Pandemic. Well, we're all going through the pandemic,
Yes.
and some will die by suicide, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those things might coincide.
Hmm.
Most people will not. And I just, I just feel like it's so important to understand that mental illness is actually illness, and we can become ill either physically or mentally. And it may have nothing to do with your other life circumstances. You mentioned
Right.
poverty, you mentioned, being a millionaire or any other sort of thing. And it's just important to, if you see signs, no matter what you think is all great about this person's life, um,
Right.
they could be becoming depressed or hopeless.
Hmm. That's really good. That's really good. So, we talked about, is there a population, right? And then of course it does come to, my next statement was about the culture and about the environment and how that can play a part, right? That's not to say, again, we talked about, simplifying it and not putting it in a lump sum because we don't want to miss anybody. However, there are certain cultures, certain environments that can bring about suicide ideation a little more than others. But on the other side, I can say that you have the population who was given everything as well. And yet, here we are still having the suicide ideation. So it's really, really important for us to be, I like to say, vigilant in
Mhm.
all communities, in all ethnicities, in all social and economical environments, right? Jaquita, I would like you to talk to, because you doing substance abuse, right? What do you see more of?
Um, well, for me, I see actually I've experienced recently some suicides within the last, I would say, 2 months or so. And I would say based off that small statistic, um, let's say within the last 9 months maybe, I've
Mhm.
had two suicides that was they 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 committed suicide. Obviously, they were successful at it. And then I had two others that were suicides, but they were suicide by overdose. Um, for me to know if those two suicides were intentional because they overdosed on substance, one possibly, the other, I think it was more to numb the pain or to numb the dark voices in the back of their minds or the sleep deprivation that they go through. And that's some other factors too. I just wanted to throw out there. That can cause a person to be suicidal, having a not being able to sleep causes you
Mhm.
to
Oh,
start to
sleep
hear
deprivation.
things
Yes.
as well. Substance causes you to hear things, on that side of it too. But the two people that I knew that committed suicide, their intentions was to commit, and unfortunately, they were successful at it. And substance did play a part. Both
Right.
of them did use substance. So I'm sure that made the situation where, people, substances suppress you even more. It pulls you deeper into depression. So I would
Mhm.
say with the two people recently, one, it was as simple as marijuana. People think that sometimes that don't alter the brain, but it does. And
Yes, it
the
does.
other, hers was more of a harder substance. It was cocaine. But those factors, as I said again, does not help the situation at all. So with the statistics that I've experienced for myself in the last 9 months, I think that's pretty high within the last 9 months. Two,
Wow.
that really intentionally wanted to um, commit suicide, and they were successful. And I think one of them possibly, we just weren't able to find out the underlying factors. And one that did, it was like a suicide by substance. But
Yeah.
I think that was more of the side of her. It was laced with something. I don't think she was
Right.
intentionally trying to kill herself. I just think
Yeah.
that she was trying to numb the sadness, the pain.
Yes.
It
Yes.
took her
Right.
out. I don't
Yeah.
think that was her goal at all. Me being able to work with her for the few years that I did work with her. But unfortunately, the ones I've experienced, to answer your question, Ellison, was dealing with substance. Neither four um, did not use substance. All four did.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I know there was a comment, and then Michelle, I'm going to come to you about what are some ways to help someone from committing suicide. So, but I seen the comment about the church, and it says, "Is the church getting better?" And I'll definitely speak to this. Is the church getting better at not demonizing suicide, or do we have more work to do? I definitely believe the church as a whole has more work to do. And I say that because I remember growing up in church, it's like, oh, everything was a demon. If I had a headache, it was a demon. Prayed away, prayed away. Where I am big in my faith, and I do believe church and prayer helps. We have to do better at educating. And that's why I'm grateful you ladies are here, because Michelle, your foundation, I know, educates.
Right.
Quita, you actually go into homes with these people and help them and educate. We real just like real talk, you guys are in the community. We have to get to the community. People are not really coming in the church because at some point they felt like, you're going to hell for everything.
Yeah.
Just everything you're doing, you're going straight to hell. So if I'm already going to hell, what am I coming to you for? To tell me I'm going to hell? So we have more work to do to educate, the clergy on understanding more about suicide, understanding the people, understanding, what it is that people are going through, and to educate them. And not just in May,
Yes.
not just in May, because it is, mental health month. Mental health is 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year, 52 weeks. I mean, we could keep going. Mental health is always, and see, in the church, you're going to hell if you commit suicide. That scares people. I mean, we can talk scripture about what scripture says, but at the same time, if I'm coming to you for help, do you really think I know the scripture? Because then I know what the scripture says. So I need help. So yes, I do believe that the church has work to do on educating the clergy as well as the people, right? So I spoke to that. If you guys want to jump in, y'all can. I'm gonna go on to the next. Go ahead, Michelle.
I actually do.
Awesome.
We have a wonderful program called Soul Shop, and it finds its basis in where do we find in the Bible people experiencing suicidal desperation? And people who attend that program are often very surprised, because when we open it up, we say, anybody know anything about suicide in the Bible? And pretty much, if they're coming to that program, people will bring up Judas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't want to talk about suicide in church and church and faith together, because none of us want to be associated with Judas, who betrayed Jesus Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of upsetting. However, when we get the discussion rolling, people realize that they actually know about many places in the Bible where people are experiencing suicidal desperation. And I'm just going to throw you a couple to whet your appetites.
Oh.
But think about Job.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and read it again and think of it with mental health in mind, and some of the things that the Bible ascribes to him as far as what he says and what he thinks. And so, yeah, people are nodding. And then think about the story of the jailer. The earthquake happens, and the doors fly open.
Yep. And Paul
He
tells
draws
them.
his sword because he can't contemplate life, having known that his prisoners have escaped. And
That's
then we
right.
have a community of prisoners who say, "Wait, no, we're all here.
Yep.
No." So we're seeing numerous people that we can talk about and study through that. And this is a suicide prevention program that asserts that about more than half of us are touched in some way, are impacted by suicide and suicidal desperation. Either we've lost somebody to suicide, like all of us have, or we have suicidal thoughts of our own, ideations, or we're very worried about someone that we know has suicidal ideation, or suicidal thinking was a part of our past and is no longer, which means we have experiences and knowledge that we can share with others. I definitely, because the church question was brought up, I felt led to definitely share about that program.
Can you say the name of it again?
It's called Soul Shop for Congregations.
Soul Shop for
Soul Shop
Congregations.
for Congregations. And the Sarah Peterson Foundation offers that program for free. Would love to bring it to anyone who has a congregation that would be interested. It's a 2-hour program, and it's very discussion based, and people like it a lot. We get really good feedback from it.
Okay.
We have other educational programs, question, persuade, refer, where people can learn signs. We have Safe Talk. SAFE is an acronym, Suicide Awareness for Everyone, and TALK is the steps you learn in it. Tell, ask, listen, keep safe. And your original question to me was about the signs, right?
No, it's fine. Yes, we were talking about what are there some ways, but we definitely wanted to talk about also the program that you had, the Safe Shop, because I think that's important, because a lot of people don't even know that Saul had anxiety. So if you look in the Bible, you can find it. We just are we educating on it, or are we choosing to skip over it? So I appreciate, for you bringing that up and speaking to that a little bit more. So yes, we were talking about some ways to help prevent someone from committing suicide.
Okay. So thanks for redirecting me. And I would say, so first you notice, we've been talking about signs to notice, and there are others. I'm going to distill the signs down to, you notice that someone is not really themselves. Mm-hmm. However they normally are, something's different, something's a little off, something's not right. We notice that. Maybe they can't sleep. Maybe that's what they revealed. Jaquita mentioned that. People
Yes.
who can't sleep, they're not okay, because we need sleep. And it doesn't
sleep
take
is
long.
So important to our health.
Right. So things that are important to your physical health are also important to your mental health. Mm-hmm. So, people not eating properly, people not sleeping an amount that they need, people who don't get a moderate amount of exercise, people who don't do something that they enjoy to reduce their stress, they are people in need of some concern. So, what can we do? The first thing we can do is let them know that we see them, we notice them, we know that things are not okay. We've noticed. And that is powerful in itself, because when someone notices you, you immediately feel a lowering of stress. It's very helpful. And so then for them to get brave and speak up and say something like, I noticed that you haven't been joining us for lunch as usual, or whatever the thing is.
Right.
I noticed this about you. I'm concerned. Can you tell me what's going on? Mm-hmm. How can I help? I'm going to throw out that it's always right to show you care.
Yes.
Even if you're self-conscious, even if other people are self-conscious, even if it feels kind of funny at the time, it's always right to reach out with some caring. The other thing is to not be afraid to say the word suicide. And I know this is a tough subject. Some people don't say the word.
Some people don't what?
they never say the word suicide.
Right.
It's not
Right.
part of their vocabulary. It's just too scary. So if you
Mm.
can't say it, maybe someone else you know can reach out to this person. But it's
Mhm.
important to find out if suicide is part of their thinking, because suicide is about life and death.
Yeah.
So finding out what we're really talking about and not mincing words like saying, "Oh, you're not going to hurt yourself, are you?" Well, there's
Yeah.
such a thing as cutting and other forms of self-harm, and people
Self-harm.
don't usually die by that, though they could. They could hurt themselves more worse than they intended.
Yes.
Um, however, finding that out is important. And I'm going to use, you mentioned sex before, so I guess we can say the word on your program.
You sure
um,
can.
I'm going
This is real talk.
caring, responsible people. We used to not talk, especially with young people, about sexuality and about sex. And I kind of feel like suicide is the other S word. As responsible
The other
adults
S
and
word.
people, we realize that we sometimes need to talk about sex, and need to use the correct words for things. And it might be super uncomfortable, but we know that it needs to happen sometimes. Suicide, kind of the same. It might be super uncomfortable to say, are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Have you thought about how you would do that? And do you have a plan and the means and the materials?
Right.
And it's uncomfortable and it's hard. But I can tell you from having done it and from having talked to others who have opened that conversation, you are very likely to be met with relief from a person who is thinking about suicide. First,
That's good.
they know that you have seen them, you see what's going on, that they are not okay. And then you have used the words, because a person who is thinking about suicide, who are they going to tell about that?
Mhm.
That is heavy. That is hard to
That's good.
carry.
That's
And you
good.
have just made it known that you're a person who they could say the word suicide to. You have opened the conversation so they don't have to. And
That's
they can
right.
breathe that sigh of relief. Yes, I have thought about it. Now that's the hard part, because what if they say yes? And the answer to that is, this is important and we need more help. We're going to have to tell someone. Let's decide together who we can
Yeah.
go to. Can we go to a counselor, a doctor, a pastor?
That's
Let's
right.
decide, because we need more help. We cannot sit with this. Remember, I said we help people having a heart attack, but we're not the heart doctor. We can
Right.
help people having a mental health issue or a crisis by recognizing it, giving them some concern and some talking, and then saying, this is important. We need more help. Let's get it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Quita, you want to jump in?
I agree with Michelle 100%. I think as loved ones or friends, that does not quite understand mental health, if you see a loved one that may be experiencing some sadness, some depression, some hopelessness, and sometimes people who do not have those suicidal ideations themselves, I don't want them to be scared to go to that individual as well, like kind of reach out. Because sometimes, like you said, Michelle, they can't say the word, in their mind, they're thinking it to themselves. I want to commit suicide. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. However, the loved one should not be necessarily afraid to ask the question themselves. It's not what you say, it's how you present it.
Yeah.
So you just be mindful of how you present it to them. And you may say, hey, I don't understand what you're going through, but let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
Those words in itself can make a major difference to that person, just by asking them, say, hey, how was your day? So what we're doing today on Real Talk with Ellison, we're just trying to put you guys in a place where you can better understand mental health. And if I can possibly, I want to throw some information out there as well. There's a such thing called an ACT team, which I work with an ACT team for Louisiana. We're a local team, but you can Google or you can look up an ACT model or an ACT team, and it's located around the United States. Every state may call their names different. Mine is Family Preservation Services, and we provide an ACT model to our clients. So there was a caller earlier She said, a guest earlier who texted in the thread, and she said that, it's hard seeking professional help because they don't understand. A
Right.
lot of them do care. Some of them may not, but a lot of them do. So I want to put out there with an acting, it's for people who cannot go out into the community and be assertive. Like they may not know how to make their own doctor's appointments, or they may not know how to um, sit in a place called, like, not necessarily called, but a mental health facility. Walk into it and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I'm having some signs of depression. I'm not sure what it is. I would like to be diagnosed." And with our company, what we do, we have psychiatrists that come into your home. We have a therapist that comes into your home. We have a substance abuse counselor that comes into your home. We have a nurse. There's so many things that can cause a person to be suicidal. We have vocational specialists, housing specialists, peer support specialists. And what we do is we meet you where you are. So that's for people who may not feel like they can get out in everyday life.
Right.
So we come to you to show you that mental health is available in every aspect. If you go out into the community, that is fine. If you feel like your anxiety is so high that you can't go out into the community, we will come to you.
That's good.
So we put it out here to make sure we don't want it to be an excuse for you not to get the help to decrease
Right.
the suicidal ideations that you may
Right.
possibly be feeling. So
Yeah.
as Michelle said, they have certain programs out there. There are certain programs out there for you as well on the end where, I go out into the community. I care. I'm wide open, here to help, whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. But it's there, it's present.
Right.
So if you can't go into the community, we'll come to you.
And I like that you said that. And what I want to piggyback on is for us as family members who may have families that are dealing with some things, there's some things we can do as well. We can
Mhm.
try our best to make your home safe. If there's alcohol, weapons, narcotic pills, all of that stuff, remove it, put it up, make your home safe. Don't make it easy accessible in the home for them if you're noticing all of these behaviors, right? It's important to make your home safe. Let them feel like, create a safe place where they can talk, because sometimes they might feel discouraged, or sometimes they feel like they disappoint, so they don't want that. So be a safe place for them to be able to come. Help them process through their feelings. Don't just say, "Oh, you'll be all right," but help them process, what does that look like? "Oh, nothing." It does, it is something. So let me help you, walk you through what is nothing. Because if you brought it up, if you're feeling a way, it's something there. So help them process their feelings is very important. And if all of that doesn't work, then arrange for them to be legally committed into a hospital. We have to do things to help, right? As far as the professional, I got it. Everybody's not going to come into the office. Quita, I love that you go to the home. Michelle, I love your programs go out to everybody, including churches. But there's something as a family member that we have to be vigilant and we have to start doing. Check on your loved ones. Don't just think that, oh, and this is mostly for kids, that, oh, they're just upstairs in their room. Oh, they're always secluded. Oh, well, there's a reason. So check, be vigilant. Don't just say, "Oh, that's just how they are." But be involved, because you're showing that I care when you're involved. And that's what people need to know, because they're feeling so hopeless. So they need to know, I care. Right. And I want to address one more other thing, but there was somebody in the chat that said about, what are some distress that one
Yes.
can do to prevent depression through because of overload of school. Now, Lena, I believe it is Lena, 9 out of 10 times, if you're depressed because of overload for school, there's other things included. Like Michelle was saying, you're not getting enough sleeping. You're probably not eating right. I don't know if you're exercising. I don't know if you're relieving any stress. I don't know the whole logistics of it. but it's just not school. It's other stuff that's incorporated in it, and school just might be the one that's magnified right now. So I would definitely say, if there's a program that you can get to talk it out, to talk with somebody, get with some friends that are helpful friends with healthy conversation, that will help you from being overwhelmed. If you're in your mind too much, one of the things that I like is use your senses. You have your sight, your nose, your mouth, your ears, your touch. If you're in your head so much, put an ice cube in your hand and just hold on to that ice cube. And you be surprised, you won't know what you were just thinking about, because just holding on to that ice cube will divert your mind. And that is not going to take your problem away, but what it will do is give you some self-awareness to just say, okay, you know what, this is what I was thinking about. Let me pull away from a minute. Let me take a time to debrief, and then go back into your situation. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And also, stay tuned, because I think within the next few weeks, we definitely will be talking about depression. We're going to have someone from CHKD here with us about depression. So yeah, because again, mental health is not just in May. Right. So those are some of the things that we wanted to talk about for family. And be gentle. Be gentle. Sometimes I feel like, parents or loved ones can be overwhelming, or their tone could be, harsh. But if somebody's going through something, we have to be gentle. Right? We have to be gentle. And I know it's a little bit after 8, but I think this is important. What are some ways that we can help people who are a suicide attempt survivors? So those who have survived, what are some things that we can throw out there to say that we can help them?
First, we need to let them know that we're so glad they're still with us.
Yes.
That they have survived their suicide attempt, to live another day, to be second day people, to be among us. And they are people that are at greater risk, and that need an extra eye, thoughtful watch over them, checking in with them to make sure that they're okay. And again, those open and frank conversations where we're not afraid to talk about it. Talking about anything that is difficult or is going on in someone's life, just talking about it already lowers blood pressure and reduces stress. And if I could go back again, and I'll be brief because I do know it's after 8, the person who was asking, how do you de-stress because of school stress? So any stress, you can de-stress by doing something that you enjoy. Tell yourself for a half an hour, I am not going to think about all the things that are stressing me out. I am going to play with a pet, go for a walk, listen to music, cook something, whatever it is that you enjoy and that you perhaps don't seem to ever have enough time for anymore. Take a half hour and do something to lower your own stress. And then you might find that you are ready to tackle the things that are stressful with renewed energy and a calmness.
Yes. Calming skills. So that's just when you said calming skills, those are the same things that, for those who attempted and they're survived. Yes, we are glad that you are here, to see another day. Your chapter is not over. Calming skills is very important. Self-soothing skills is important, because those what help regulate your emotions. Those are very important. I was getting ready to throw a term out there, but I'm trying to bring it back. So also learning techniques to redirect your thought process, to change your thinking pattern. If you're constantly negative, we have to start becoming more positive. There's a great book out there that says it's $5-6, Negative Self-Talk, How to Change It. It tells you things that are negative. It tells you how to start thinking on a more positive mindset. So change your thinking is also very, very important. So Michelle,
stages of change as well.
Go ahead.
Something called 5 stages. It's 5 stages of change. No matter where you are in your life with depression, substance, it's 5 different stages that you kind of go through. So when you all get the opportunity, whether you're in addiction or not, or battling with depression, anxiety, it's something called 5 stages of change that helps a person that's going through things as far as mental health. It puts things into perspective to help them better increase like quality of life and wanting to live to fight another day. 5 stages of change.
Okay. 5 stages of change. Michelle, talk to us about, I think you said a little bit about Safe Talk. You had another one, which was what, QPR?
Yes, Safe Talk, QPR, Soul Shop. Those are programs for 16 and older. And then we also have a suite of programs for younger people, starting at about fourth grade. And so we have a level 1 program for younger folks starting in grades 4 to 6. Basically a middle school age program and a high school age program. And we also have a program for college bound and college students. These are all programs where you can learn to understand feelings, how you're feeling. You can learn about warning signs for suicide. You can learn peer and self-advocacy, how to ask for help for yourself or peers. You can learn who are trusted adults, what does that mean, and how do I approach someone about myself or a friend who might need help with their mental health or who might have thoughts of suicide. We also have programs for teachers, for counselors, really kind of any group. We can customize some of our programs because depression is not your fault.
That's right.
It is, anyone can become ill. And when we think of it as illness, we become more compassionate rather than thinking of someone as being difficult and needing to get over something. And you can learn what to say and learn how to help someone in as little as an hour. Our QPR program is done online, and so is our level 1 program for youth. We have it on our schedule, and people can do it online. We prefer to do in-person programs, and so those programs plus the others that I've mentioned are all done are all done in person, and they're of various lengths. Our website is scrolling on the bottom. I see worldwithoutsuicide.org, as well as our phone number. And thank you for that. And that's how you
can donate at that website too, correct? Donate and anything like that.
That's true. We are a nonprofit, a 501c3, and we very much appreciate donations because we don't charge groups for our programs, but obviously they do cost money. And so we very much appreciate and accept donations if people are moved to give. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to get information out there, because if people don't know that free information is available, that free trainings and learning is out there from us, and we're happy to come all over Hampton Roads, they won't access it. They need to know.
Can you repeat, you said about how to talk about suicide. Can you repeat that? Because they asked, can you repeat how to have suicide talks? What was that? Was that Soul Shop, Safe Talk? Was that it?
Oh, Safe Talk. Can I repeat what the acronym is? It's Suicide Awareness for Everyone is SAFE. And then the talk steps are tell, ask, listen, keep safe. Basically, you tell someone that you've noticed something and you're worried. You ask them to tell you what their story is and what's going on. You listen. You take your time. You don't interrupt. You don't watch your phone. All those things.
That's right.
And then you keep them safe and direct them to help. But that is a super simplified explanation of the Safe Talk program. And I would love for people to consider signing up for it, or consider bringing one of these programs to a group that you belong to. If you are a youth leader, we would love to come and bring a youth program that works for your group. I was mentioning that our website is scrolling along the bottom. You can reach us. There's a contact page on our website that you can click, and you can tell us about yourself, your group. You can look at our programs on our website and read more about them, see which one you think could work, or you can tell us about your group and ask us which program would be a good fit. All those things are possible. And we would love to hear from folks.
Well, I thank you so much for giving us a lot of information. Again, www.worldwithoutsuicide.org. Michelle Peterson with the Sarah Michelle Peterson Foundation. We greatly, greatly appreciate you. Jaquita, my sidekick. As always, Jaquita Garrett, substance abuse counselor. We appreciate you for tuning in. Hopefully, Michelle, we can work. I know we're going to be working in the future together on some things, because this is not, it doesn't go away, unfortunately. So it's something that you have to be continuous at and diligent at to just reach your community as a whole. So we'll be talking more about that. Ladies, do you guys have a nugget to leave our viewers before we go? Michelle, I'll start with you, because I think I threw Jaquita under the bus and forgot to tell her.
Sure. First, in case I don't get a chance later, thank you so much for having me on the show. It has been a huge pleasure. If I have a nugget to offer, I think it's that anyone could possibly stop someone from dying by suicide. All it takes is a little love, a few skills, and to squash your own fear about reaching out. And you can get the confidence to do that in one of our training programs. I really hope to see some of you signing up, or for someone to contact us and say, yes, bring a program to my group, my church, my wherever I belong.
Amen. Thank you so much. Listen to me, amen, like I'm in church. Thank you. Jaquita.
My nugget I would like to throw out there: when dealing with mental health and someone who's experiencing mental health, and whether they're diagnosed or non-diagnosed, is when they come to you, my suggestion is to be non-judgmental. You're not in that person's head. You don't know what they're going through. Just be supportive. And my biggest thing is to be non-judgmental. And I agree with Michelle. If you can reach one, you can save one.
Yes, that's good. You can reach one, you can save one. And again, ladies, I want to thank each of you for being here, because this is a touchy topic. And Michelle, especially, you with your daughter. So we appreciate you and all that you're doing to reach the community. And I want to say to the viewers that, you know what, please don't be too concerned or too bothered or feel like you can't reach out to someone, because you have a community. You have a community. We are a community. We're here for you, to help you, to guide you, to give you the necessary skills, to help you talk it out, to help you work it out. You are not alone. I know how it may feel, but you're not alone. So please, if you feel like you want to commit suicide, if you're having ideations, please reach out and talk, right? And again, the National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. And then we have the text line, which is scrolling. It text hello 741-741. I want to say thank you again to Michelle and Jaquita. Thank you to all the viewers. We hope that this has been informative to you guys. We hope that it's been a blessing. More importantly, we hope that we have reached someone that may have been having suicide ideation and give it a second thought. Please reach out for help. Michelle's organization, Quita, you said ACT is worldwide, ACT. So Google it, find that out. Professional counselors, we do care. Okay. God bless you guys. Thank you for watching. You have been watching Real Talk with Ellasin, and I will see you guys later. Stay tuned for upcoming shows. Be blessed.